Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I just wanted to start off by saying thank you guys so much for the support on my last video regarding the Danish Deception. It got so many comments. The commentary was so much fun. Like, there were so many things that people were saying, different opinions. I really appreciate it. I literally feel like, okay, so long story short, I don't want to make this too long, but I feel like this whole YouTube thing has been such an amazing thing for me. I feel like I have a little community where I can talk about things that are going on in the world, and it's really giving me life. And basically this video is going to be my final thoughts about the Danish Deception. And I'm gonna kind of talk about other things more involving specifically Onyeka. I think right now she's getting so much backlash, and I understand why. This story is crazy. There's so much that happened. But I don't want to talk about the obvious, right? Because the obvious is that this man scammed her of a lot of money. Onyeka clearly made a lot of decisions that she should not have made, right? And we know this. We know the story, right? So this video will be more about me kind of reflecting on my final thoughts about it, and also adding some specifically things I found on TikTok from some women and some of the thoughts they had on this story that I really thought was insightful. Okay, so just to start off, I want to talk about what I've been seeing online, and something that I keep hearing is that people don't think that Onyeka is taking full accountability for what happened. They're kind of comparing this story to a woman named Tisa, which you guys might not remember this, but basically it was a woman that came out and went viral saying that she married like a stranger, like she doesn't know who she married, right? The difference between Tisa and this story with Onyeka is Tisa took full accountability for what happened and where she went wrong. She pointed those things out. I feel like there were times when Onyeka would be like, I know what you guys are thinking. I shouldn't have done that, right? But the accountability on her part is not still fully there. And I think that's what's really annoying people. As much as Onyeka was saying, oh, I'm telling this story so that other people don't get scammed, and, this guy can, possibly even end up in jail or something. People are thinking, well, that's crazy to say, because people are like, we wouldn't have made the same mistakes you made, like in their minds, they're like, Martin could never get me because I wouldn't even have done what you did, Onyeka, like that's what people are thinking. So they're like, huh? And what I'll say is, no matter how crazy this story is and what people think about Onyeka, it is a good thing that she spoke out. It is, right? I know some people think that she should have waited longer because the divorce was finalized very recently, and people think she's possibly still in love with Martin, and that she still wants to be with him, and that if he didn't leave her first, she would still be with him. I don't know, all of this crazy stuff. No matter what, it's a good thing that she shared this story, right? Because Martin has been doing this for a long time. And at the end of the day, this story went viral. It is going to be very difficult for him to continue to do this to other people. He will have to move to a country possibly without the internet, okay? It won't be that easy, right? And in that sense, that's a good thing, because he's done this so much. People in the past have not spoken out against him, right? And even if they did, maybe they didn't have the same platform that Onyeka has. And the fact that this story has blown up is still a good thing for, getting this guy, and hopefully he won't do this to other people. I wanted to start by kind of playing this TikTok, and I really liked the points that this woman made.
What we aren't going to do is come on the internet and make fun of Onyeka because of the way she talks, or the way that she wears her hair, or the music that she listens to. Okay? I have watched all of her series, and initially her videos did really upset me, but after taking some time to think about it, I'm realizing that Onyeka and I have a lot in common, being kind of token Black friends. And I wanted to talk about what it means to be a token in a group, and how we can give Onyeka some empathy. First off, if you are Black and you grew up in predominantly white spaces, it's not your fault. It's your parents' fault. Your parents put you into that setting. I'm wearing a sweatshirt for Amherst College. Amherst College is where my father worked as a collegiate soccer coach. This is a sister to the Ivy Leagues. It is a major PWI, okay? My father is African. He is from Malawi, Africa. So when he moved to the United States. While there are communities of Malawians dispersed about, there definitely were not any Malawians in Amherst. That being said, my father did go to the University of Massachusetts. My father and my mother both went to the University of Massachusetts at a time when UMass was one of the only colleges to have a Department of African American Studies. So what that meant was that while they were at a predominantly white institution of higher education, there was this pocket of black folks doing black Africana studies. So I was raised in community with the children of all those people that went to college together. But it was us against the rest of them. And it wasn't really us against them, but like in every class that I had, right? Like in first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, it was like maybe me and one other black kid in our class. That was it. So growing up, I can't say that maybe I wanted to be white, but I can say that I wanted what the white girls had, if that makes sense. And, you know, being a young girl, one of the things is you want to be desirable. You want to be pursued by, you know, men, if we're talking in a very, you know, heterosexual sense of storytelling. So who did the boys have crushes on? The boys seem to always have crushes on, you know, the cute little blonde girl with probably blue eyes, right? So then you're looking to this beauty standard that you are never going to live up to. And so as a young person, that is very hard on your self-esteem, 100%. So I'm sure Onyeka, similar to me, had crushes on guys growing up. Had crushes and then just watched her friends get the guys over her. And so it's not necessarily that she's a pick-me, but it's just that she's watched herself get picked over again and again and again. And I recently watched a clip of her from not The Bachelor, but whatever the show was after that. Was it Bachelor in Paradise? Something like that. And she's sitting down and she's having a conversation with another contestant, female contestant. The female contestant is saying, "I'm sorry, Onyeka, I don't think any of these guys are interested in you." And I think I read online that she ended up leaving the show or quitting the show. I know how Onyeka felt in that moment. Because I have had so many moments, especially in my 20s. Because, listen, I'm in my 40s now, but when I was in my 20s, I was hot, okay? And I was so confused because I would get picked over. And I would watch guys date women that, in my opinion, you know, weren't as pretty as me. Like, if we're going by, like, standard beauty, like, societal beauty standards, right? I'm like, okay, I'm striving for. I subjectively think I'm more attractive than that girl, but somehow she's getting boyfriends and I'm not. I had to move, okay? As soon as I left, and I know I skipped around a lot, like I grew up in Massachusetts, we ended up moving to Wisconsin, so I ended up graduating high school in Wisconsin, spending my 20s in Wisconsin and in Minnesota, and just not around a lot of POCs, okay? But as soon as I moved back to the East Coast, like my dating apps in the Midwest were I just kind of kept seeing like the same guys, not a lot of conversations, you know, I'd go on some dates. As soon as I'd get to the East Coast, the amount of men that were, you know, hitting me up, hitting on me, it was just clear that there was like a different mindset going on. And so I'm not from Texas. Like I said, I'm from Massachusetts. So in Massachusetts, I grew up with like my own set of judgments about Texas. But from what I understand, that's not like a place I want to be as a black person. I'm just saying. It gives segregation. So I'm sure that Onyeka has had her own, you know, trials, her own tribulations of being a token black girl, also being the child of immigrants in a community in Dallas, Texas, with predominantly white folks. And it's, you know, she's not unique to having that experience, right? Being the child of immigrants, all of those things. It's not unique. But I'm not any less black. I'm not any less African because I grew up in a predominantly white town and because I went to college at a predominantly white institution. So for people to be coming online and making fun of Onyeka for the way that she talks and the music that she listens to is, to me, you're just part of the problem too, because race isn't real. Race is a construct that was created. We are all, there's only one race. It's the human race. We are all one. We are all created equal.
Okay. So yeah, I loved the points that she made in this TikTok. Do I agree that Onyeka was willing to do anything for this man because, you know, he fit into her lifestyle and whatnot? Yes. She was dumb for giving him her money. There's so many things, right, that we're getting on Onyeka about. I agree 100%. But I don't necessarily agree with people making fun of the way that she talks or making fun of the way she like pats her braids behind her ear, right? I think that it's just getting into a territory of being, you know, like almost kind of being like insensitive and mean. And what I wanted to talk about specifically in this last TikTok that I just played was, you know, there are other women of color and other minorities in America that grow up in predominantly white areas and areas that don't have people that look like them, right? Obviously, I do not know Onyeka's background, right? But if I had to guess, she probably didn't grow up in an area with a bunch of people that look like her, right? And I think that that is not necessarily her fault, which is something that the lady in this TikTok also mentioned. There's so many people in America that grow up in areas that are predominantly white and they're non-white, right? And how does that affect them when it comes to dating? How does that affect them when it comes to choosing a partner, right? Everybody is different, right? So some people will grow up in an area that's predominantly white and they won't come out with any sense of, you know, maybe seeing white people and putting them on a pedestal or feeling like they're in any way better than, right? And then other people will come out and have these insecurities, right? So another thing I wanted to bring up was, I mean, I'm sure you guys might have heard of this recent season of Love is Blind season 9. Patrick from this season, I'm going to post a photo of him. He's an Asian American and he grew up in Denver, Colorado, which is an area that is predominantly Caucasian. And we see what happened to him on this show. The reason I'm bringing this guy up is because the reaction that Patrick had when he saw Casey, right? Which Casey was the girl that he got with after the pods and got engaged to, and how he was kissing all up on her and so happy like he had found his blonde spray tan queen, was a similar reaction that I saw from or heard from Onyeka when she was describing Martin, when she saw him for the first time and said, oh my God, blonde hair, blue eyes, looked like he was a Calvin Klein model. I'm bringing this up because I saw similarities there where there was just an enormous amount of excitement for the way that this person looks and their phenotype and their features, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy with the way your partner looks, but it was a lot, right? It was like, this is a little strange. Even the way Patrick, you know, when he saw Casey for the first time, you could just tell that he was like, he felt like he hit the jackpot. You could see it, you know? And I'm not going to bash on Casey or say she doesn't look good because that's not true. But like, to me, Casey is not like the cream of the crop, right? But to Patrick, she is, you know? And it was the same thing with Onyeka, right? When she was describing the blonde hair, the blue eyes, the fact that he looked like a Calvin Klein model, that he was fit, his height, his physique, like, you know, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because in Patrick's eyes, from that Love is Blind season 9, right? The Asian American, Casey was a prize. She was a prize. And let's be honest, Casey was a prize in his eyes because she was a blonde white woman and he had been rejected by so many women that looked like her in his past. Same thing that's going on now with Onyeka, right? Martin looked like a guy that maybe she got passed up by guys that looked like Martin in the past, right? She wasn't picked, right, by these men. But Martin was showing her attention, right? And it felt good. It's like, oh my God, this is the guy that I've always really wanted, you know? And that's why I'm bringing this up, because I want to say that we should give Onyeka some sense of grace. Please don't kill me, guys, for saying that. But I do feel for her because there are so many other Onyekas out there. Patrick is another Onyeka from Love is Blind season 9. Obviously, he's not going to be, I don't think he would be scammed the way Onyeka was scammed. Okay, I know that Onyeka obviously made a lot of mistakes in this story, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because the reasons that Onyeka went as far to give this man so much money and do anything to hold on to him stemmed from the fact that she saw Martin as a prize. She was willing to put up with damn near anything to keep him. And to me, that's never going to end well. that level of desperation and being like, oh my God, I'm never going to get a guy better than this, I have to hang on to him, it will never end well, in my opinion, ever. And the only thing I'll say is Onyeka still has a lot of work to do on herself. I'm not saying that, I'm not taking that away. Like, she still has a lot of work to do on herself. And I really do hope that from this story, she does gain a sense of being able to reflect on why she put up with as much as she put up with. Because I think she can clearly see that she made mistakes and did a lot of things she shouldn't have done. But the thing she needs to think about is why. The why behind her actions. Why did she give this man so much money? Why did she trust this man so early on? These are the things she has to unpack. And I think that she'll kind of get to the deeper root of kind of what's going on with her that maybe needs to be worked on, like some inner work. I know she's in therapy, and I think that that's like a really good thing because there is something going on there for sure. I think that a lot of women that are minorities and grew up in in predominantly white spaces grow up with a lot of this sense of sometimes seeing like getting the white guy with certain features as the prize. I'm not saying that happens to everyone that grows up in these spaces, but I think that it can have that effect. We can't get on Onyeka too much because there are other Onyekas out there. And I'm saying that only in terms of her and the way she viewed this white man, right? Because there are other people that view white people in a certain hierarchy. And I'm trying to say this because it's not just Black women that like Onyeka that can have this type of view, right? And whenever you have this view of a certain race when you're dating, in my opinion, it usually doesn't go well because you're with that person for the wrong reasons. You're not with them because you love them, because there's a connection, because you're with them because of the way they make you feel, because of the validation that they bring you, that you are for some reason lacking for one reason or another. And that will never last, in my opinion. It won't. I agree that Onyeka was being an idiot when it comes to all the money that she gave him and everything. And the way that she, when it comes to the way that she views white men and what she was willing to put up with to keep, to hold on to Martin as much as she was, we should have a little bit more understanding. Only because Onyeka is not the only one that in some way has idolized, white men or white people in general. I think that this is like a global problem, right? And another thing I'll say is like, I had a friend, for example, that told me she was Chinese and she grew up in China and then eventually came to the United States. But she told me one day that when she was a child, she wanted to be white. And I don't know why, but that just stunned me. I was like, for what reason? And when she told me this, I was confused. Like, if you grew up in a place where everybody looks like you, and in my opinion, like, they're beautiful, why would you want to be white? And then it dawned on me, right, that like, this whole idea of white idolization is in a lot of spaces. It's not just America. It's not just something that possibly Onyeka was dealing with, right? It's in a lot of spaces, right? So that's why I'm saying this, where if my friend could grow up in a country, right, China, where she literally looks like so many people surrounding her, but then she's idolizing people that don't look like her at all, this shit runs deep. It runs deep. And that's why I'm saying, like, yes, Onyeka is, needs work done. There's a lot of mistakes she made. There's a lot of things she has to unpack about herself, the way she views herself, the way she views being a Black woman in America, the way she views white people. Yes, but this is a global problem, right? Like this whole idealization of whiteness, right? But what I think is crazy was for my friend to say she wanted to be white as a child, growing up in a place like China, where people look like her everywhere she turns. It's not crazy that somebody possibly like Onyeka, right, who I think, I'm speculating here, guys, I don't know for sure, but I'm speculating, grew up in a predominantly white space, would grow up, not having like, wanting to maybe somehow attain to a certain level of obtaining a white man as a partner, right? So like, let's just unpack that, right? If my friend who grew up in a place with people that look like her feels that way, it's not going to be crazy that somebody like Onyeka, who possibly grew up in an environment with people that do not look anything like her or have some of the thoughts that she has, you know? And this is why I'm saying we need to give her a little bit of grace, because this is something that's affecting a lot of people. And it's not just in America, right? This is a global thing. This is affecting people in other countries where they're coming out saying they wish they were white, or they wish they looked like this, or they wish they had these features. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to say that and like make this video to kind of unpack these things a little bit, because Onyeka is getting torn apart, and I get why. You know, I listened to every single part of this story, and guys, I was a little heated, okay? And I was only heated because I was like, why would you let yourself get taken advantage of like this, you know? And that is the part that's frustrating to people. But in terms of like how she views herself, how she views white people and all of this, I do think we need to give her a little bit of grace, because there's a lot of people who have like a lot of things to unpack when it comes to race that they haven't, that they're also battling and idolizing people that they shouldn't be idolizing. Onyeka is not the first one. She's not the only one. So that's all I'm saying, you know, in terms of just that sense, like we, you know, to just think about that. Those are kind of my final thoughts on this whole story. The last thing I wanted to bring up is that my brother also, you know, listened to this story, and something he said, which I was like, is he's pretty much convinced that Onyeka must have grown up with some kind of money. And I was like, oh, maybe he's not wrong, because the way she was just giving money out, I did feel like she didn't really value money the same way like I value money. Like, I just was like, girl, like, I don't know. It was weird. And I just feel like as a woman in general, when you work hard for your money and, you know, you're working to make that money and you have savings and it's not easy to obtain those things. I don't understand why you would be giving it away so easily, right? So he's convinced that she must have grown up pretty comfortable, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised. Tell me what you guys think about that. But I was like, that is a possibility, because I don't know why anybody would be giving money out the way she was. I mean, I didn't grow up with much, so I hold on to my money. I'm not giving it out to any man like that. That's crazy, you know? But please let me know what you guys think. And, you know, your final thoughts about this whole story. If there's certain things I said that you disagree with, I would love to hear your opinion. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.